Welcome to Courage to Change Recovery Partners Clinic here in Macedonia, Ohio. On behalf of our physicians and staff here, I'd like to welcome you to this video, which is something I wanted to do for a while, which is basically spelling out a recipe for success using Suboxone based on my experience with thousands of addicts over the past several years. I can pretty much tell which ones are going to be successful and which ones are going to fail just by the effort they put forth in the first few months. So this is, in my opinion, a proven recipe that will enable the individual to be, with a relative degree of certainty, successful at remaining sober on Suboxone. If you're open-minded and willing and can take it a little direction and follow these suggestions with a reasonable certainty, I'm confident you can stay clean. Unfortunately, our own best thinking got us here, and many of us have large egos and are unaccustomed to taking direction or advice, at least advice in our own best interest. For this reason, I would put our success rate around 40 to 50% at 1 year for our patients, which is pretty good. If you look at an abstinent-only rehab facility, it's around 9 or 10%. However, it could be much better if more patients were willing to do the hard work of recovery. I use, and I've mentioned this in other videos, the diabetes metaphor. Suboxone does not cure addiction. It's a tool to help manage it and help a person seek recovery. While you're on Suboxone, like diabetes, the disease is arrested. It's not progressing. And if the individual makes the lifestyle choices like in diabetes, maybe they can get off insulin if they lose weight and exercise. And the same goes for Suboxone. If while you're on the Suboxone, you're going to meetings, working steps, getting a sponsor, doing counseling, working on yourself, getting rid of the narcissism and the self-centeredness, then there's a good chance you'll be able to get off of Suboxone because you're learning how to live life on life's terms. It's important to remember that it is a tool, it's not a cure, and your family members need to understand that. Oftentimes family members are pretty upset with the individual. They believe that he or she is just substituting one drug for another. And that's pretty much the case if all you do is take Suboxone. You've just substituted your drug of choice for Suboxone. However, if while on Suboxone you're doing the activities that I'm going to present and discuss with you tonight, then in no way do I believe it is just substituting one drug for another. A lot of people come here thinking that Suboxone is the same thing as methadone. Couldn't be further from the truth. Now, methadone is an opiate as well. It's a long-lasting opiate that is pretty similar to other opiates in that it still allows the individual to get high. It causes increasing tolerance. It's dangerous, has all the adverse side effects of opiates like respiratory depression, and it's highly abusable. The only advantage of methadone is that it's very inexpensive and once a day. In fact, in England, they use heroin rather than methadone because they recognize that heroin, believe it or not, is actually safer than methadone. They also use heroin, I believe, in Vancouver, British Columbia. So how long do we take it? Most patients need to be on Suboxone about a year in order for the damage to the brain to kind of abate and for the chemistry to get back to normal and for their neurotransmitter production, including dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, to ramp up and get back to more normal levels. And then the individual can focus on the taper regimen or getting off the Suboxone. Early on, when you start Suboxone, it's important to be on the lowest possible dose that will control your cravings and the withdrawal symptoms. So if you can get by on 8 or 12 milligrams, I'd encourage you to do that because it will make coming off the Suboxone that much easier. Although most patients seem to require 16 milligrams or 2 strips a day. A lot of insurance companies require patients to go to counseling. If there's no insurance requirement, in my opinion, I think meetings are better. It's a lifelong tool that you can use to establish a support group and get a sponsor who can be your guide in recovery. And it doesn't cost any money unless you want to put a donation in the basket. It's been my observation that after about 6 months of patients who are just taking Suboxone and not doing much else to recover, they just disappear, they drop off the map. This is because it's not what they thought it would be. Life is boring and dull and gray and isn't exciting. They haven't learned how to deal with life without the chemicals, and they just go back to what they know. Those people who embrace recovery and sobriety and do all the various activities that we're going to discuss thrive. They wake up every day with a zest for life. They can't wait to see what the day brings. It's pretty remarkable, and I hope that you'll choose that pathway rather than just substituting one drug for another and just only taking Suboxone. To be successful, you have to get rid of your playmates, playthings, and playgrounds. And this means you have to pretty much change everything about your past using life. Otherwise, you're going to be around too many triggers, and it's going to cause you to go back out. There's a saying in the 12-step program, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. And that's very true. It's important to grasp the powerlessness and the unmanageability. That's step one. You have to give up the chaos, the drama, the whole lifestyle of an addict. If you maintain that and you're just on Suboxone, it's not going to end well. In order to do that, you have to address the narcissism, the self-centeredness, the character defects. To be a good addict, you're pretty much like an infant. The world revolves around you. Everyone exists to serve you. It's all about me, me, me. And if you don't give that up, you're going to stay miserable. And of course, everyone around you will stay miserable. I'd recommend trying to complete the 12 steps in about 12 to 15 months. And many people get hung up on the fourth step, which is doing a fearless moral inventory of their character defects. I'd encourage you to blow through that and keep going in the steps to maintain your momentum. It's important to get a sponsor, that is basically someone that you respect their comments in a meeting, that has the life that you want, that can guide you in the recovery and help you work the steps. It's important to have a game plan for triggers and cravings. If one of your using buddies comes around, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and watch him shoot up or snort a pill? Or are you going to tell him, I can't hang around with you anymore, I've got to go? Those are the types of situations that you have to be prepared to deal with. It's important to let go of resentments. There's a metaphor I heard Carrie Fisher use in one of her stand-up routines where resentments are when you drink the poison and wait for the other person to die. That's very true. You have to give up your resentments and your guilt and shame. You have to remember that the first person that you need to apologize to is yourself. You have to forgive yourself. The goal is to live life on life's terms, become honest, open-minded, and willing, develop a gratitude list, develop acceptance and faith in a higher power. It doesn't have to be something religious. It can be something greater than your disease and greater than yourself. You just have to be able to turn your will and your life over to that higher power and know that it will protect you. And that is not something you arrive at overnight, but it's almost mandatory if you're going to stay clean long term. Also important is to get a home group. This means that you're going to be responsible for going to a meeting every week, and that people will keep their eyes on you and know if you're getting squirrely or not showing up, that they need to get in touch and see what's going on with you. It's important to attend 3 meetings a week, in my opinion. Those people who are successful coming out of rehab are usually going to a meeting every day, the 90 meetings in 90 days scenario. And most importantly, you have to get rid of all mood-altering drugs, including alcohol. You might be able to get away with smoking a joint here or there, or a beer once in a while on Suboxone, but I guarantee you the day that you go off Suboxone and you keep dabbling in those drugs, you will relapse. I'll bet serious money on it. So you have to give up all mood-altering drugs now while you're in the program here, and we will drug test you for that. It's important to do a daily moral inventory. This is kind of just reflecting back at the end of the day and see, was there something I could have done better? Is there someone I wronged? Is there someone I need to make amends to? It's just in the habit of self-improvement. In terms of when to taper, usually around a year, most people are ready to taper, and you do it gradually. You'll start out at 16 milligrams, and then when you're ready to taper, you might go to 12 milligrams for a month. And then when you drop down to 8, a month later, you may feel a little rough for a few days, so you pick up your meeting attendance, go to some extra meetings. In a few days, you'll feel all right, and you'll have broken through that barrier. So every time you make a dosage adjustment, expect to feel rough for a few days, but have faith it will get better, and get to some meetings to help you get through that. This is a lot of work, no doubt about it. And most people will not do all these things until they've harvested enough pain and suffering, grief and pain, and willing to do anything. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and are able to follow all these recommendations, I'm very optimistic. I'm confident you can get your life back. The choice is yours. This isn't the only path to sobriety. I've been doing this long enough that I know that it works. And like they say in AA, it works if you work it and it won't if you don't. The problem arises in that we all think we're terminally unique and that the rules don't apply to us. And if you're still that mindset, if you think you can figure it out on your own, I would suggest you don't waste your time and money on the treatment. I'd rather you go out and get further pain and suffering until you're ready to do whatever it takes to get your life back. So I hope you'll choose to get your treatment here at Courage to Change Recovery Partners Clinic. I feel blessed that we have some doctors who are in recovery here and know what it's like to be an addict and know the hopelessness and the helplessness, and they also learned the pathway to sobriety, and I think they can share a lot of wisdom with you. So I'd like to wish you all a clean and serene 2013. Thank you.